Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is Nathan Payne. I'm coming to you excited for today's topic. Guys, I'm going to talk to you about what the heck is a motivated seller. What makes someone motivated to sell their home? Stay tuned. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what makes a seller motivated to sell their home and what that even means, motivation. What does that even mean? Check it out. I got a great tip, so stay tuned because I want to let you guys know how you can really identify a motivated seller or not. Today, you're going to learn why a seller would even be motivated to sell their home. Also, what does that even mean if you're working with a motivated seller? Also, do people take advantage of people that are motivated that need to sell their home? Is that something that happens? And how can you work ethically with someone that is motivated to sell their home? So let's dive right into it, everybody. What is a motivated seller? What is the definition? Well, I meant really a motivated seller is pretty simple. It's someone that's motivated to sell their home really fast or quick, and it doesn't always have to do with distress and financial problems. It could be just someone that doesn't want to waste their time or their energy or their mind or their thought. They just could be a burden to them just because they don't even want to think about it. But a motivated seller is someone that just wants to sell their house quickly, fast, easy. So what are the 4 pillars of motivation? What causes a seller to be motivated to sell their home? Well, what you need to look for is, number 1 is timeline. Okay, how fast do they need to sell? When do they need to get it done? Is it in 90 days? Is it in 7 days? Is it in a year? Knowing a seller's timeline will let you know exactly if they're motivated or not. If they're not motivated, they're probably not gonna have a timeline that's very quick. But if they're like, hey, I need to sell this house in 14 days, well, that's a lot of motivation. Another pillar of motivation is the condition of the property. Most of the time, if a seller wants to sell their house quickly, it can be due to the fact that their house is in terrible condition, it needs a lot of work, or maybe they just don't even want to do the work and they're just motivated to get rid of it. For example, if you have a house that has a leaky roof and you don't have the money to repair it and you just want to get out of there, you're tired of it leaking and you think it's going to cause more problems, there you go. That can cause motivation because of the distress of the property. Or the house keeps on breaking or like leaking, or there's problems with the electricity, there's problems with the plumbing. That can cause a seller to be motivated. So we've already gone over timeline. Timeline will cause someone, if they need to sell quickly, they need to get it done, that's motivation. Or condition of the property, they're worried that, if they don't do the rehab or if they don't fix the property, if they don't have the money to fix it, it's going to get in worse condition, and they're just tired of it. Is condition. Condition is another one of the motivating pillars. Okay. Another one of the pillars of motivation. Well, guys, it's pretty simple. I mean, it's redundant. It's motivation. Why do they want to sell? When I talk to sellers, the first thing I ask them is, what's got you interested in selling? What's motivating you to sell? I don't say motivating. I just say, why are you selling? Or what's got you interested in selling? This sounds like a great house. What's the reason? And that is probably one of the most important questions to ask a seller to find out their motivation is, why are they selling? Are they selling because they need a move? Are they selling because they're out of money? Are they selling because there was a death in the family and they have this property they inherited and they just want to get rid of it? There's so many things that can motivate someone to sell, and it can be things that wouldn't even motivate you. Sometimes, like I talked to this one guy that had $1 million property, and he had all the money in the world. He didn't need to sell the house, but he wanted to sell it because it was just a burden for him. He just didn't want to think about it anymore. And for me, I'm like, wow, I got $1 million house. How is that a burden? But for him, he's just like, look, I just want to get rid of it. I don't want to think about it. I just want to get it off my books. And that was motivation for him. So again, out of the 4 pillars, we've talked about 3. You got timeline, you got condition, and you have the reason why they want to sell, motivation. Okay. Now the last pillar that I'm going to go over, the 4th one, it is a kind of interesting pillar because it doesn't always determine motivation, but I would say price. If a seller, you're talking to a seller and you ask them what they want for the house, what they're willing to take for it if you bought it, and they give you a low price, that's usually determines motivation. If they're already in a range where it's low and they understand that it's low, maybe they've talked to a lot of people before and they just want to get it done. They're not trying to mess around and play around and ask for a high price. They're just like, look, if you give me $100,000, I know the property's worth $250, just give me $100,000 and I'll be done. Then you can ask like, oh wow, you're giving me a great deal. Like, what's going on? So asking the price can be a good motivation factor, but not always, guys. That's why I'm saying it can be a flipper flopper. When a seller says, let's say the house is worth $300,000 and they ask you for $350,000, $400,000. Don't let them saying that they want more money for the house deter you. Because guys, I just did a deal on the market. They listed the house for $450,000. It was $140,000 more than what we got it for eventually once we were able to negotiate. But the house was way listed way higher than it was supposed to be. So if you would have looked at that deal and said, they're not motivated, they want way too much money, wrong. They were super motivated. They were just trying to get as much as they could. So price, don't let it stop you from seeing motivation. It can help, but it's not always the key. It's not always going to determine that. So let's go over the 4 points. So a lot of people are probably concerned that wholesalers or real estate investors take advantage of motivated sellers. But what I got to tell you guys is, you can take advantage of anyone in any industry, but you just have to be honest, transparent, and treat people like you would want to be treated. So, if people are like, oh, how do you sleep at night? You're a wholesaler. I sleep great at night. Okay, because when I talk to sellers, I give them all their options. I let them know, hey, you should list this, you should flip this, you should do this, and then you should do that. And my cash offer is always the last option for them, because I think cash offers are probably one of the lowest on the tier of what things that can benefit a seller. I mean, unless they are super motivated and they need to get it done, then it is super beneficial. But I always present tons of options. So when people say, hey, you're taking advantage of motivated sellers, I don't. But I mean, obviously, like I said, a lot of people can, but you can take advantage of anyone and anything. If someone says, hey, I'll take $150 for this house and it's worth $1 million, I would say, wow, you're giving me a great deal. Your house is worth more. What's going on? But if someone just says, yeah, okay, great, let's sign it. I mean, that's fine. I mean, they can do whatever they want. But for me, I can usually tell if there's something going on. I call it out because, maybe the house is about to blow up and, I want to know why there's such a good deal on it. But yeah, anyone can take advantage of anyone. Don't do it. Be honest, be true, treat people like you'd want to be treated. So again, when people say, hey, you're a wholesaler, you take advantage of people, be like, laugh at that, because you're like, I don't do that. That's stupid. Before I move on to the next point, I want to give you something that I've spent a lot of time building, and I think it will really help you as a real estate investor and wholesaler. I've created what's called the Painless Wholesaling Mind Map, and what it does is it lays out exactly how to do a deal from step 1 through 10, and it goes really in depth, and especially for what we're talking about, finding motivated sellers. I have a process in the mind map that goes over the sales process and how to identify what a motivated seller is. I have a document that actually explains exactly what sellers would be motivated and what situations. So I want you to check it out because it's absolutely free. I want to help you get it and improve your sales skills. So check it out. So I want to tell you, now that we've talked about the 4 pillars of motivation and what makes a seller motivated, I want to tell you the best way to deal with motivated sellers, okay? And this has a little bit to do with reverse psychology. It has a little bit to do with, not being the needy investor, but being the reluctant investor. And what I call it, guys, is it's called presenting options to sellers. I know it's crazy. When I first started doing sales, when I was doing door-to-door sales for 6 years, selling Dish Network, my goal was to knock on someone's door and convince them to buy Dish Network because it was a better deal for them. And I had like an hour, or I had 30 minutes, and I had that day to get them to buy it, because then I was going to move on to the next door, and the chances of them buying it later would be very slim. So my goal was to convince people, get in, get out, be quick. But ever since I went to doing deals in real estate, it's completely different. You cannot convince someone to take your low cash offer, and you can't force them to do it, or say, hey, I'm about to leave the area. My trucks, I sold Dish Network, so our spiel would be like, hey, our trucks are in the area. Anyone that signs up, they're get a fee waived for getting it. The installation fee is going to get waived because it's a lot cheaper since our trucks are here. So people will be like, oh, wow, okay, your trucks are in the area. Then we can, I want to take advantage of that. But you can't really say that with buying houses. You can't be like, hey, I'm only buying houses in this neighborhood today, or this week. So what I had to learn is not to do the true way of sales. And the true way of sales is helping the seller understand their options and helping them find out which one is the best for them. So when I talk to sellers, what I do is I lay out all the options they have to sell their home. I say, hey, look, I understand you're trying to sell your home. Have you considered listing it already? And they say, yeah, I have thought about listing it, but I don't really want to. I don't want to have to hassle this. I need to sell this quickly. I say, okay, so you need to sell quickly, so listing it is out of the question. Okay, let's just X that option out. Now, have you thought about keeping it? Can you keep it? Can you rent it to maybe a family friend? Can you stay here? Is it an option just to stay here? Oh, it's not an option. I can't afford the payment and I don't want to hassle the renters. Okay, so we've X'd out renting it. You don't want to keep it. You don't want to rent it. How about flipping it? Can you flip it? Because if I flip it, I'm going to make the most money possible. And that's what I do for my job, is I buy homes and I flip them to make money. You can make that money too, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller. And they say, I don't have the money to flip it. I don't have the time, the energy, the money. Because I explain to them if they flip it, the cost and how long it'll take. Most of the time they say, I don't want to flip it. I say, okay, so we've talked about listing it, not a good option. Keeping it or renting it out, not something you're interested in, and flipping it, you don't want to do it. So that kind of leaves, at the moment, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the cash offer. Now, I will tell you that my cash offer, it is, because I buy it for cash, I buy it quick, there's no fees, and we can get it done fast. That's the lowest offer you can really get. Are you sure that's something you want? If we can get it done for you quick? And they say, yes, that's something I want. And then obviously among cash offers, you have seller finance offers that you can negotiate doing terms and stuff. But basically, I walk people back into the cash offer I have, because I'm just like, hey, are you sure? I'm never here to convince someone to take a cash offer. I'm here to help you know your options. I'm like a deal engineer, a consultant, and that's the right way to do deals. No matter what you do, you gotta show people what there is available to them and help them make the best decision for them. So if you wanna work with motivated sellers and be ethical and do it the right way, present them all their options and let them decide what's best for them. And no matter if listing it's the best option for them, go ahead. If you're an agent, you can help them. Or if you know agents, you can refer it. So there's always ways you can benefit people. Or if they want to flip it, say, hey, let me give you some of the contractors I use. You can provide value to them, and who knows, maybe they'll work with you in the future. What you have to do is, when you're working with people, you have to look at the win-win scenarios and help them achieve their goals, because it doesn't matter if it benefits you in the moment, you're helping people succeed, and that's what matters. So that is how you deal with motivated sellers ethically and the right way.